So slightly delayed. I'm going to call the meeting to order. The special town meeting of July 24th is now in session. Welcome and thank you for all your patience today. I know it wasn't what you expected when you decided to come to town meeting, but it's good to see everybody here. We have return of service by the town clerk. I want you to note, especially with this big crowd, should anything go amiss, that we need to leave by an emergency exit. The exits may not be the entrance through which you came. There are emergency exits on the sides. Just be aware of where they are. Can everybody hear me? We're dealing with a mic that's a little short, so I'm trying to bend over to talk into the mic. Only water is allowed inside the gym. I want to make sure everybody knows that. So on the front, I'm Jim Fitzgerald. I'm your town moderator. Next to me is Bob Galvin, our town council. Next to them are Maggie and Grayson, who are running the clock. As most of you who are regular town meeting members know, presentations go 5 minutes and discussions from the floor go 2 minutes. You can only discuss a topic once, so you've got 2 minutes to make your point. Town clerk, Board of Selectmen, Town Treasurer, Town Accountant are on the end, and in front of me is the Advisory Board. At this point, I'm going to call Elaine Murrin in for the Pledge of Allegiance. And what we traditionally do is we try to get one of our veterans to lead the pledge. And I'll read a little bio on Lorraine. Lorraine Murrin is a retired lieutenant colonel in the Army Nurse Corps with 24 years of active duty service. She embarked on a military career in 1988 following graduation from Salve Virginia University in Newport, Rhode Island. During her Army tenure, she had many rewarding assignments with domestically and overseas in Korea and Germany. Her primary focus was in critical care arena, proudly caring for service members, retirees, and their family members during life-altering times. Her roots are on the South Shore, and upon military retirement, there was no question where she would head. Along with her husband, retired Command Sergeant Major James Murrin, they happily called Marshfield their permanent home. And I'll turn it over to Lorraine.
Yes, please stand. And please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, how many of you are new to town meeting? Raise your hand. Not as many as I would have expected with this crowd, but welcome. This is the purest form of democracy. Everybody gets a vote tonight. So please shut off your cell phones. So everybody knows the discussion goes through me, whatever discussion that happens this evening. There's no direct conversation back and forth between the presenters or the staff that might be at the microphone. Typically, I'll start off trying with a show of hands when we go to the vote. I think that's probably going to safe bet this evening that we can do that. If necessary, we can go to a standing vote, and a standing vote of 7 voters rise to question my count. Then we go to a standing vote, and if that were to happen, there are tellers around the room, and I'll bring them up should the need arise for a standing vote. We have a list of non-registered voters. Reese, did you give me the list of non-registered? Pardon me? So we have a list of non-registered voters that are town officials or professionals that are on the floor. They are non-voting members, so they need to be recognized and be allowed to stay on the floor. And they are Carol Hamilton from the Council of Aging, Mike Seal from Conservation, Rod Paracchino from DPW, Gary Russell from Board of Health, Michael Aselva from the Fire, Robert Matthew Forte, IT, Colin Kennelly from IT, Meg LeMay, Town Accountant, and there's Gil Johnson from ATD and Sean O'Leary. And I ask that we give a, raise your hand if you're allowing them to stay on the floor. All those opposed? They are allowed to stay on the floor. And now that I have the list of counters, yep. Okay, Sean Stobel as well. And Mike DeMeo, the harbor master, and Sean Patterson is waving to me over there from the DPW. So show of hands on those to let them stay. Okay, all opposed? That passes. The counters, and I don't know that we're going to need them tonight, but we'll go. It's Anne Marie Sinnott in Section A, Jeb Deloche in Section B, Anne Marie Sacchetti in Section C, Kevin Robinson in Section D, and Andy Wenig in Section E. So those are our counters for the evening if we go to a standing vote. No, one more. Not a complete list, obviously somewhat of a list. Ed Pesci, who is a professional engineer that's worked with the town departments on this project, and Ed Pesci is down front and would like to have him stay as well, so please raise your hand. All opposed? Okay. Anything else, Michael? Okay. Thank you. So, reading of the rules, I'm not going to read the rules. They're in the front of your warrant. I will highlight Rule 7, 9, 11, and 14 as being especially relevant. There's also the rule of moving the question. So, if we get into discussion and the discussion has gone on for a while, and someone decides to move the question, which means that if I accept their motion to move the question, that at that point in time, we'll go to a vote on moving the question. If that gets approved, then we go immediately to a vote and we end discussion. If you're going to move the question, you need to be at a microphone to move the question. You cannot yell from your seat to move the question. I have a vote to accept the rules. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? I declare that that passes. And there's really a funny thing here because I'm not sure where I do these same opening statement rules, but it says overflow space would be in the gym. Obviously, that didn't work out. We didn't expect that there would be an overflow situation, and I appreciate everybody's forbearance with this, and I'm very happy that we do not have to postpone this thing for a couple of weeks so we can set up an overflow. So thank you very much. So that being said, we're going to go into Article 1, which is a selectmen's article that's being withdrawn. It's going to be indefinitely postponed. It will come back in the future once some more information is garnered from the Board of Selectmen for the roof project. So I'm declaring that that article is passed over. So that will get us to Article 2. Article 2 is a citizen's petition of Mary Taylor. It has to do, and I'll read it. Will the town of Marshfield vote to instruct the Select Board, Board of Public Works, Board of Health, and Zoning Board of Appeals to seek a determination by Mass Department of Environmental Protection as to whether construction of a large multi-building project with multiple septic systems in Zone 2 of the Marshfield Town Aquifer is consistent with the public water supply regulations for long-term groundwater supply protection in Marshfield prior to the issuance of any permits for construction of the project currently referred to as Bridle Crossing off Ferry Street, aka Ferry Street Rear. And again, that's the petition of Mary Taylor. So at this point in time, to give you an idea of what the game plan is, I'm going to have Mary and David Carrier have a 5-minute presentation on the project or their concerns with the project. After that, I'm going to go to Town Council, who has a couple of statements to make. on the project from a legalese standpoint for the town. And then we have Ed Pesci here, who's a professional engineer, that's available for comment and clarification. And if at that point in time we want to have Ed speak, we can do that briefly. And then we'll go to comment from the floor. And we're going to be getting a determination from the advisory board after the presentation from Mary and from David. So that's what the game plan is. Mary and David, are you ready? Come on up.
I just want to say thank you, everybody. Is this on?
Yeah. Could you turn up the volume a little?
That's on.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out. I can't believe this room is full. I'm thrilled. Thank you. This is a very special town meeting. Everybody's been saying that tonight, and the fates have conspired to put us here, put clean water front and center with our elected and appointed town boards. This article before us is to ask you in Town Hall to protect the water supply in Marshfield for generations to come by asking the State Department of Environmental Protection to rule on a high-density housing project within the aquifer due to our concerns over PFAS in the wastewater. Recent studies indicate that PFAS and PFOAs are found in residential wastewater, and now the EPA is requiring municipal wastewater treatment facilities to test and report the levels of 6 different PFAS in wastewater. This tells us that PFAS regulations in wastewater are imminent. The Bridle Crossing project is to build 8 apartment buildings with 8 provisionally approved denitrification septic systems that will not remove PFAS from almost 10,000 gallons a day of wastewater. The 10-acre site is located on the Bridle Trail adjacent to a 27-acre unlined landfill. Should these apartments be built, people living in those apartments will be living approximately 20 feet from a site filled with toxins from the previous century. Plus, the aquifer is going to lose the protective filter of 125,000 cubic yards of sand, gravel, and trees. With all due respect to the developers, Mr. Sealand and Mr. Dacey, you do create quality buildings and beautiful sites. However, you could do more for affordable housing if you weren't aiming for high profits on all your projects. This proposal is too much housing too close to the wells. Using provisional septic systems with short-term testing data just is too risky within 2,000 feet of the pristine wells we have. If you cannot do this project affordably by following the bylaws of this town, including the bylaw for PFAS regulation, then you're choosing profits. I'm sorry, I lost my place. If you cannot do this project affordably within the bylaws, including the PFAS bylaw, then perhaps this project on this site is not viable. Regarding the Bridle Crossing apartment proposal, the experts disagree on what is safe for our drinking water. The developers had a paid expert that told us that it was safe and the denitrification septic systems would protect the town's wells. The Board of Public Works and the Water Department hired an independent company, Environmental Partners and McLean Environmental, to model the impact of PFAS in wastewater near our wells. And their independent report says it's a matter of time before PFAS will enter our drinking water. The drinking water from near will enter the drinking water. Those independent experts estimate 2 years from the occupancy of those proposed apartments to the time our now very pristine wells are contaminated. With drinking water, the EPA has set a maximum contaminant level at 4 parts per trillion for each individual PFAS. For perspective, 4 parts per trillion is the equivalent of 1 drop of water in 5 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Prevention is our best and least expensive option for maintaining healthy clean water. If we don't protect the wells now, we taxpayers will be left holding the bag in the future, long after the developers have sold the properties or moved on. The residents of those apartments will be left with challenging living conditions should their apartments be compromised with bad water and toxins from their immediate neighbor, the landfill. To our Board of Health, Zoning Board, and Select Board, how could you approve this project on this site? Why would you put our excellent water at a nanosecond of risk in this day and age? It's just too much risk. You all are gathered here to send the message to Town Hall with us that water needs to be protected now for the future.
Okay, thank you. You're out of time, so thank you.
Hold on, Mary. I got 2 minutes.
David, there was only one 5-minute presentation, so
I'm speaking as a 2-minute speaker then, right?
if you can be a 2-minute speaker, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Dave Carrier, 34 Outlook Road. This is the interagency report from the DEP that was started in 2019 to 2021, okay, that documents all of the issues associated with PFAS that were known at that time. More have been discovered since then. And this is single-sided, so you can figure that it's a good solid 1/4 inch, 2-sided things. This was presented to the Zoning Board of Appeals as part of my response to this. My main dog in this fight is the bylaw I wrote, 285-19.1, which says that entities coming into Zone 2 to do work are not to introduce PFAS, and if they can't avoid bringing in a product that has it, they're going to tell us how they keep it out. That is not anything particularly magical. Let's say, for example, you're cutting a piece of pressurized lumber as part of your construction project. Well, instead of letting the sawdust fall into the soil, collect it with a vacuum unit, either one with a table saw that has it built in, or get there with a shop vac and a labor on it. Okay. PFAS concerns have become greater and greater in the US EPA. As Mary mentioned, it's 4 parts per trillion. We have already experienced issues with contamination and what it costs for well sites in the Furnace Brook Aquifer back in the mid-'80s. And the bottom line comes down, excluding contamination is the shorter money alternative to remediation. The town of Air, for one well site, spent $25 million in order to be able to reuse that well site and meet, at that time, the 6 parts per billion that the state was specifying then. We are now moving to much tighter, and they've added additional components from what I've been told. The bottom line comes down. Remediation is more expensive, and it stays with us forever. One of the other things to think about as you look forward here is the MBTA law, the the planning board was looking to put it in on Zone 2 for the Furnace Brook Aquifer, okay? That will add additional potential contamination, which may require an upgrade of the existing activated charcoal systems and the VOC aeration systems that currently exist for Furnace Brook 2, 3, and 1.
Thank you, David. So now, the advisory board, Tom Scollins.
Okay, thank you. Tom Scollins, Advisory Board. We met earlier, which seems like a long time ago, and tonight, and we actually offered to take no decision. And the reason is that we had a joint meeting on June 10th. Nobody came to talk about this article, so we were hoping to listen tonight and make an educated decision. Unfortunately, one of our board members had to leave, so that leaves us 4, so we actually don't have a quorum, so legally we can't make a recommendation, but we'll just have to vote as town residents.
Please,
I
please.
don't make the rules. I don't make the rules.
Okay. At this point in time, I call on Attorney Galvin, Town Council, to make a couple of statements.
Good evening, Robert Galvin, Town Council. Mr. Moderator and members of the town meeting, it's my opinion this town meeting is free to take a vote on this article, and that vote will give the town officials a sense of the town meeting and how it feels on this particular subject. The Zoning Board of Appeals, which is considering the matter, has already closed its public hearing and is deliberating and is not allowed to take into consideration any of the information from this meeting. But the Zoning Board of Appeals did receive the presentation that the Board of Public Works received, so it is familiar with the matter, and Mr. Carrier is correct. He did submit an interagency memo, so the Zoning Board of Appeals has all that information in the record.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to go to discussion from the floor. I think in this particular instance, just so that people know, like to have people get up, speak their mind. If you're going to get up, just say, yeah, I agree with everybody else that just got up. That's not a good reason to get up and speak. Really, if you've got new information, you've got something that will enlighten us, then sure, come on up and speak. Honestly, I believe that everybody is sort of one mind on this already, and all we're doing is delaying the inevitable decision on this. So I would have you bear that in mind as we go forward. So that being said, right microphone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Diane Jordan, Bancroft Street. In April 2024, EPA finalized designated PFAS, PFOA, and PFOS as hazardous substances under the CER Compensation and Liability Act, also known as the Superfund. EPA issued an enforcement policy that makes it clear they will focus enforcement on parties who significantly contribute to the release of PFAS chemicals into the environment. EPA announced a national primary drinking water regulation, establishing legally enforceable maximum contaminant levels, MCLs, for 6 individual PFAS forever chemicals in drinking water at 4 parts per trillion and a group MCL at 1 part per trillion. Public water systems must comply with MCLs within 5 years, and if they exceed the standard, will be required to notify the public, reduce the levels, and report the violations. Beginning in 2029, public water systems will be required to report the health effects caused by MCLs of PFAS, GenX, and other emerging chemicals. The EPA estimates $1.5 billion for monitoring, installation, and maintenance of PFAS treatment technologies, and suggests obtaining new or additional sources of water. We do not have new or additional sources of water. At the proposed project site over our aquifer, we have our 3 cleanest wells, which are currently non-detect for PFAS chemicals. The Board of Public Works, DPW, contracted a comprehensive study of the potential effects of this project on our water supply. We did not do that lightly. We are 100% against this project, which will send detectable levels of PFAS to our wells within 2 years. The DPW have sent multiple correspondence to the Board of Health to back up our position on this threat, and the Board of Health have been staggeringly silent. It will likely be stated that town meeting cannot compel the boards named in this article. However, as a Marshfield citizen and as vice chair of the Board of Public Works, I strongly urge the named boards to vote yes on this article and give our town the time and opportunity to bring the DEP into the decision-making process. Thank you,
You're
Mr.
right.
Moderator.
Please. If you can just hold your applause to the end of the evening, because all it does, every time applause, it's just adding more time to we're not getting any flow with getting people up to the microphone and having them be able to say their piece. I did not ask if Ed Pesci wanted to, if there's anything for you to say at this point in time, or would you rather wait until there's something salient? Okay, the PE will wait off at that point in time. Left microphone.
Steve Lynch, 50 Central Street. So I have a question. So does the Board of Selectmen, can they stop this project by not issuing the excavation permit?
I'm told no.
And why is that? Because the last project that was planned for this site, they stopped it by not issuing the excavation permit.
Robert Galvin, Town Council. So this project is being permitted under state law known as Chapter 40B, which is also known as a comprehensive permit. The Zoning Board of Appeals acts as the permit granting authority for all of the town boards under all local bylaws and regulations. The project has to comply without exception with all state laws and all federal laws, but no other board other than the Zoning Board of Appeals will be issuing any permits in connection with this project. So that's how the 40B process works.
And then I have one more question. That would be, so if it goes through this whole process and then the permit gets issued by the state, can the town of Marshfield appeal this to appeals or SJC court?
Can you appeal the 40B permit?
Correct.
If it's awarded? Yes.
So we will be doing that then, correct? Who decides that, the Board of Selectmen?
Who would? If it were to happen, it would be the Board of Selectmen that would vote to appeal the decision.
So I hope they can see there would be political suicide not to do that. All right, thank you.
If please, no applause. Or I'll move the question and we'll just go to a vote right now and we can all clap like crazy when it's all done. So, right microphone.
I'm still glad I could have a gas car. Battery went dead. Bob Shaughnessy, 231 Hampstead Way, chairman of the board of 3 members, the Board of Public Works, also known as the Water Commissioners. I have 5 points that I was going to make, but bottom line is we really need to have, since this is a 40B project, we need to have the state determine what the amount of contamination we can put into this well. We had a consultant come in. It is going to be contaminated. It is going. The system that they're proposing is a gamble, at least. It's not proven. There's no long-term performance of it. PFOS is none of the regulations of PFOS are in any of the wastewater. All the drinking water regulations at this time, they're currently being promulgated by the state and the EPA because the regulations, the MCL of 4 just came out. How do you put a price on clean drinking water? Well, I'll tell you, the people here know what the price of clean drinking water is because we wouldn't be here otherwise. I believe we should just ask the state through our town officials, of which I am one, to ask the state for the determination. I vote yes to clean drinking water, yes. We can't put a price on it, yes. We don't need him to have someone make a profit against our future generations of clean drinking water.
Okay, woman to the left.
Kathy Creed, 43 Temple Road. My question is with regard to the MCL maximum containment level for PFAS in drinking water. What does 4 parts per trillion mean in relation to toxicity level?
Ed? Or Mark, would you? Okay. Ed Pesci's a professional engineer.
So, there we go. Hello, everyone. I'm Ed Pesci of Pesci Engineering. I'm the civil engineering consultant for the zoning board. So I don't represent the applicant. I actually represent the zoning board. I actually advise the zoning board on review of projects. Simply put, zoning boards, planning boards, other commissions are made up of lay people like yourself, residents of a town, and they hire typically an expert in that field to assist them with technical review of projects, and that's what I've done now since 2001 for the town of Marshfield, for the zoning board. This project was reviewed significantly by my group, and that group consisted of also another consultant for the planning board, Pat Brennan of PGP Engineering, excuse me, and Mr. Ed Eichner of TMDL Solutions, who is a recognized expert on nitrogen loading and nitrogen calculations of that type. So we took it very seriously and hired some additional experts to team up to go over this project. So I will just say before I try to answer the question about 4 parts per trillion, which is a difficult one to answer, I will just say that the zoning board has taken, I think, the appropriate amount of care and concentration on reviewing this project, and they still are. To answer your question about 4 parts per trillion, whether that's toxic, anything at very low concentrations, and remember the original concentrations, the state DEP, Mass DEP in October 2020 implemented their PFAS is a general term given to per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. So there's a number of compounds that generate this list of concerned compounds in the drinking water. And DEP didn't have an EPA standard to lean on at the time, and DEP put together an initial standard in the, I want to say 50 and 60 ppt, parts per trillion range, that's parts per trillion, and then later on in October of 2020, they established a 20 parts per trillion for 6 of the PFAS compounds. Not all of them, as EPA has done. EPA has done 4 of them at 4 parts per trillion and one other one at 10 parts per trillion. And a couple of other grouped substances with no recommended hazard index or maximum contaminant level, MCL. So folks, this is still an emerging science, an emerging public health issue. So to answer your question about 4 PPT, it's a very low concentration.
Please.
It's a very low concentration of concern, which means that a little bit of it can reach above that 4 parts per trillion safe drinking water standard that we all care about. Does that answer your question? If it doesn't, what do you want me to tell you? I'm not a toxicologist.
No,
I can only tell you how public health is generated and how public health is looked at.
Please,
Okay.
please, we're trying to conduct this meeting in a courteous way, and he's giving the answer that he could to the woman that's at the microphone. You are not at the microphone. He's answering her.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you very much for your response.
Thank you very much. Before I forget it, shout out to my fellow veteran here on recognition. Thank you.
Mark, do you want to say something?
Mark McDonald, 26 Elmhurst Ave, Chairman of the Board of Health. The Board of Health is in favor of this petition.
Okay. Again, right microphone.
Jackie Mason, 1415 Ocean Street.
I can't hear you.
Jackie Mason, 1415 Ocean Street. The previous speaker from the Board of Public Works said that the public water systems are required to track PFAS levels. What about tracking PFAS levels in wastewater? Is that being done?
Mr. Carrier?
As part of the follow-up I have been doing on this since I started with it, there are 16 PFASs currently being tested within the wastewater of public wastewater systems. I believe that that purpose is something that the DEP has required so that they can look forward to further regulation in the future when it comes to wastewater.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, David. David was former DPW, so he knows from where he speaks. Left microphone.
I'm Barry Cornwall, 55 Cornwell Hill. A few facts that are relevant to this. In 2001, town meeting approved monies to construct a new senior center on Webster Street. When the engineers went to present the site plan, we were informed by several town boards that it fell within a Zone 2 aquifer protection area, which we had not known. We had to shift the location of that building as close as possible to Webster Street. And that's just one small example of protecting Zone 2. A second example is, I don't know how many people are familiar with Matuxet Woods. It's diagonally across Ferry Street from the site in question. And in 2010, the annual and special town meeting authorized the expenditure of $2,150,000 to purchase that site for aquifer protection so that it would not be built upon. Finally, and that's in the same geographical area. Finally, I want to point out to you that when you do a title research on this parcel, Mr. Armstrong purchased it from the Rugani Family Trust. And lo and behold, the Rugani Family Trust and the person of Gino Rugani purchased it from the town of Marshfield in 1956. Marshfield owned this property in question at one point, and we cannot hold the Board of Selectmen from that period of time to today's standards. But I think it's essential that when we look at precious resources like water and open space, that we think way far in advance, not just what's needed right now, but what might be the issues or the opportunities down the road.
Okay. Thank you, Barry. You're out of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Woman to the right.
Danielle Conant, 133R Old Ocean Street. I have a couple questions. I was wondering if there's a recent water quality report for past 2022, because as of 2022, the perfluorocarbons, the PFCs, also known as PFAS now, the limit the limit was 11.1 parts per trillion, is what we had in 2022. So I know we're testing for 16 types of PFAS. Just because something is legal now does not mean it's safe. And is the town prepared to be sued by the same law firm that sued DuPont for PFAS contamination in the water? Are we prepared for that? Because if we do poison our water, this is going to cause cancer and serious illnesses. So I guess that's all I have to say.
So what is your question?
Is the town prepared to be sued for PFAS contamination? And is there a water quality report more recent than 2022? Because I cannot find any indication that the PFAS levels have gone down, because it seems like there's current PFAS contamination, unless I'm reading the water quality report wrong. Because when it was taken, it says there's no violation, because the Massachusetts regulations were 20 parts per trillion, is now 4 to 10 parts per trillion, the limits.
Okay. Dave's standing up. If you've got an answer on the water quality report, that would be great.
In quick summary, the Marshfield Water Department has been conducting testing, and in the particular, the amount of PFAS that was initially detected and what is in our wells has been remaining relatively constant and below the current regulation requirements. The most recent in particular for ferry number 1 and ferry number 2 have shown none detected for PFAS along with nitrogens. And, to me, that suggests that actually something that Environmental Partners presented about where down gradient was is correct, because since Silver Pines is way above, some of those contaminants ought to be making their way to the well, but they don't seem to be.
Okay. Man left.
John Kramer, 2204 Road. Our town should not be building any housing units near aquifers and water wells. There is no more room to build any more housing developments in Marshfield. We shouldn't have any housing near aquifers and water wells because it would make it impossible for our people to get clean drinking water. Developing housing close to aquifers and water wells is like turning our places for clean drinking water into cesspools. The state should keep us fully informed of us residents about any new building projects. The MBTA should be focusing on upgrading its public transportation instead of forcing our town to build more housing projects. All of our Massachusetts government officials should be keeping our town fully informed about building any new projects in our town.
Thank you. Right microphone.
Hi, Stefano Santini, 534 Pleasant Street. Certainly want us to have clean water, but does the town sell our water to other surrounding towns?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. If there is contamination, would that impact our ability to sell that water?
No. I'm relaying information from town council who's next to me.
I'm sorry.
Town council is next to me, and he said no.
No. Do the other towns have alternatives to source water?
Don't know.
Okay. So there's no competition, or there could be competition, if we have a poor product to give the other towns. I think it's reasonable to suggest that if they had alternatives, they could go, and it could be a detriment to our revenue streams.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Left microphone.
Hi, my name is Bob McDonough. I live at 7 Essex Ave up in Silver Pines. And I would just like to let you all know that in the last 10 years up there, we've had no less than 8 people come down with cancer. 2 of them just died in the past 3 months. A gentleman who lives at the end of the bridle path passed within the last couple of years. And the town animal control officer that lives on Grove Street passed away from cancer. All 3 of those locations circle this job site. Thank you.
Okay. Right microphone.
Put it down? Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you. I wanted to say that.
Can you give your name and your address, please?
My name is Priscilla Maglio. I live at 163 Arlington Street. I want to say that with all of these chemicals that may cause cancer, we haven't had anyone stand up and review which PFAS does what and causes what kind of cancer. And I know the stuff is in the literature. but we don't have a medical person standing up and telling us anything. I think we're playing Russian roulette to allow any building near the aquifer. We already have a landfill and another landfill that have been used up there. I think it's time to face reality and not allow anything to be built there or anywhere near any other aquifer. And if you want to talk about where more places might be built, I discovered there were Union Street wells, and somebody thought that would be a good place to build more 40B and more 40A housing. I think it's the governor. So therefore, let's not do it. Thank you.
Okay. And please, gentlemen to the left.
Joe Pasevich, Wilson Road. Geez, it was over 20 years ago, Mr. Moderator, that we had a packed house at town meeting, and that was when they proposed a 40B down in Wrexham. We demanded the select board to sue the ZBA, and you know what? They did. And as a result of that and the effort of myself and some of the other warriors that are here tonight, that project was cut in half and had an age restriction put on it. So I don't want to hear that there's no hope, that the Housing Appeals Committee or any court is not going to listen to the town of Marshfield. If you don't think they're going to, well, let's try anyway, okay? Let's sue and sue and sue and sue and engage in whatever we have to do to keep this kind of harm from happening to our town and our resources. Thank you.
Gentleman to the right.
Bertie Dupuy, 6 Weathervane Lane. I have a few questions I'd like answered. I'm not all that familiar with this project, but I'd like to know, first of all, how many units there are, whether the Zoning Board of Appeals has already approved it, and also the date of the approval if they have.
Mr. Dupuy, there are 56 units with 88 bedrooms. The Board of Appeals has not issued a decision yet on this project. It's under deliberation.
Thank you. The reason why I asked that, perhaps I misheard Mr. Galvin earlier about the question that was asked, that the only people that could appeal this was, I believe he said, the town. Am I correct?
No, he said.
If the Zoning Board of Appeals were to grant a comprehensive permit, any person who's an aggrieved person would be able to appeal it under Chapter 40A, Section 17.
So a private citizen has a right to appeal the decision if the Zoning Board of Appeals does, in fact, approve it?
Said yes.
Yes, okay. The reason why I asked that, we had a similar situation up over and behind Roach Brothers. We currently have in place there over 240 units with another 270 about to be built, about 10 times the size of this one being there. We did appeal that. The only reason why we lost is because we did not have jurisdiction with regard to being abutters. But I want to make it clear to everyone here tonight, should the zoning board decide to approve this project, it can be privately appealed. All you need is some abutters to this land, and you have a right to appeal this process. We've got money established in our program to concern community citizens, and I would gladly help support an appeal on this should it go forward. Thank you.
Okay. Gentleman at the left microphone.
Mr. Moderator, Lou Darpino, 124 Peregrine White Drive. I have a question for the Chairman of the Board of Health. Did I understand you correctly that you're in favor of this?
Mr. McDonald?
Mark McDonald, 26 Elmhurst Ave, Chairman of the Board of Health. I don't understand your question.
Are you in favor of this project going through?
I'm in favor of the petition, sir.
You're in favor of this petition?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Gentleman at the right.
Wait a minute, Jim.
We have a woman.
Excuse me. I said me. It's not me. The Board of Health Board is in favor of this petition.
Okay. Going to. Oh, good? I see there's a gentleman at the right, Mike. There's a woman at the left. After her, we're going to go to a vote. So, gentleman at the right.
John Romero, 508 Ferry Street. I spoke a lot at the ZBA, the zoning board meetings, and have given my opinion based on the septic systems that a group of people got together and we studied all facets of this project. This has been an ongoing thing for over 20 years that they're trying to build various things on this land above the aquifer. They've eliminated the amount of dirt that they were going to take out, or the sand, and they've gone from originally 300,000+ down to roughly 125, 150,000 cubic yards. From day one that I was speaking, going over this with these septic systems that are going to clean the nitrates but will not clean PFAS. The zoning board was butting heads with a lot of the people that were there trying to stop this project. It's above our aquifer that serves the town. We have the cleanest water in the state. In the state of Massachusetts, we have the cleanest water. And I brought up to the zoning board, and a zoning board member commented and knew, and I brought a question up. Duxbury, back in 2021, they have now formed a water commission. They didn't have one then. 2 wells went down. Those wells were contaminated with PFAS. Duxbury had to install a filtration system in order to filter their water out. They estimated it would be roughly $7 million. They are to date, and all you have to do is type in Duxbury contaminated water. They are to date at $18 million to filter their water. That comes from the taxpayers. What I implore, and I said to the zoning board, is take this from A to Z and really do the people right in this town. I am asking the select board, which I know because of the 40B laws, they can't circumvent and come into this and say to the zoning board, this is wrong, and they have to let the zoning board. Those are the ones that have the final ruling. But I ask the select board this. If they pass this project and the time comes, I think the town should allot as much money as they can to protect the people in the Commonwealth of Mass who live in this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Woman to the left microphone. And I didn't see the gentleman get up behind her. You'll be the last speaker.
Jacqueline Little, 343 Ferry Street. This, I'll be honest, is right in my neighborhood. However, over 40 years ago, we tried to get Mr. Regani to not reopen the sand and gravel pit, and we prevailed. The selectman at the time said that it would be a hazard to the health and safety of the neighborhood. Now, one of the standings, as I understand it, a 40B can be denied if the health and safety of the neighborhood or the community is in peril. This is definitely even worse, because this is not just the sand and gravel removal, but then all the units that would be continuing to contaminate it. I will point to one of the previous speakers saying, we don't know what it will be like in 10 or 20 years from now. My husband's family home had to be totally destroyed because it was in the Love Canal area. And in the 1950s, dumping the stuff in the ground just seemed fine and dandy, until in the 70s, people were having birth defects, cancers, dying from the contamination of the water that was moving through that area and into the neighborhood. You don't know what the future holds. We can't be sure that only 4 parts per trillion is even safe. That's the standing now. We have no guarantee that that is accurate. We don't know what other contaminations may be contributing to the area that are not part of this project that will accumulate and make it worse. I totally support this article and hope that all you do too. Thank you.
Okay. Gentleman at the rear microphone.
Steve Lakatos, 184 Elm Street. I just wanted to ask, and I don't know who to address this to, is the board or Board of Health, other zoning boards, familiar with the recent cases in both Situate and Duxbury? The most recent thing I've seen about Situate was that they've had a $21 million increase in the cost of their water treatment plant, not the final cost, but an increase, simply because of the rules around PFAS changed how clean that water would have to be. I'm not sure about Duxbury's increase. I thought it was something like 40 million, but I'm not sure about that. Maybe you can explain that. And are we prepared for those kind of increases if our water systems get, either the regulations change or we start detecting some PFAS in our water? It just seems like a no-brainer to me that we have to protect, at this point, especially with the PFAS being, regulations seem to be a moving target. I think this is easy we've got to protect it. This seems so expensive that towns are being forced to do. Are we prepared for that? And we have to look out for that. Thank you.
Okay. I don't, does anybody have any, I don't believe there's anybody here that can speak to the Cohasset and Duxbury situations, but they're heard. Okay, so we've had plenty of discussion.
Mr. Moderator, I can answer on a couple of those points with regard to other towns.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
So Situate Diane Jordan, Bancroft Street. Situate is building a water treatment plant that they need anyway, but costs have gone up so much since they approved, I think it was 13 and something million for that plant, that they're now tonight having a special town meeting for an additional 20 million just for that water treatment plant. And part of the additional cost, it's construction, and the fact that there aren't a lot of builders available because so many towns are needing new water treatment plants or water treatment plants that they didn't have before. And then also the cost of filtering for PFAS, which cannot be removed, it can only be filtered. And then the filtering process, those processes, the things that they use to filter are then toxic waste. And they need to be cleared and refiltered once a year. So Stowe has contaminated one well. They are spending millions of dollars just to provide bottled water to the residents who rely on that well. They're not even at the point where they're trying to figure out what to do about building a plant to clean the water coming from that well to filter it. The town of Littleton has, with 10,000 residents, has spent over $30 million to build a water treatment plant and piping to deal with their PFAS issue. The filters for the water treatment plant are $500,000 per year, just for the maintenance costs on that one piece of the water treatment plant. So I think the price tag for Duxbury is well over $10 million for one to help filter out from one contaminated well. And then Norton has contaminated, they have one or two wells that are contaminated. They are spending millions to provide, they had to shut those wells down and are spending millions to provide bottled water with no real plan as to what to do about it. This is happening all throughout the country and all over Massachusetts, Barnstable, and has a huge problem with it. It's not going to go away. It's a very dangerous situation, and a very expensive situation. The EPA estimates, I think 19 million people or something in the country are going to be affected, or I can't remember the number. It was a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Going to go out on a limb here and think that we can do this with a show of hands. So this is a majority vote, correct?
So I thought I'd just add a little bit more color to the situation. A couple of years ago, a group of attorneys that practice class actions, some of whom we had dealt before with the opioid crisis, approached the town and the select board and asked for the town to consider joining a class action lawsuit against all the manufacturers of the chemicals that we're talking about here tonight. And the select board a couple of years ago joined that lawsuit, and we are suing the companies that manufactured these products, and we expect a recovery. There are already settlements in place with some of the producers, and those funds will be available to the town to deal with this issue in its existing condition.
Okay. So we're going to go to a vote. This is a majority vote. All in favor of Article 2, please raise your hand. All opposed? As I thought, it's unanimous. Now you can clap. Okay, we have, yes, sir. Pardon me? I didn't see a hand up that was opposed. Unanimous vote. I said there was a unanimous vote. Maggie, thank you. What? Motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Jason, for the last minute response. Thank you, Maggie, for stepping in.